Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, the other day we were talking about how Europe is gearing up for war and seems to be ready to fight this war really within the next 4 to 5 years. I mean, they're not even ready. They're not putting it off for 10 years. No, it's got to be within the next 4 to 5 years. And in a casual perusal of media story will find you more and more examples of politicians, generals giving interviews in which they're sounding off about this coming war. Um, and it's a very odd business because you have to wonder why are they scaring the population in this way? Because a war with Russia, that's going to be a serious business. A lot of people are going to get killed. I mean, so why are
Well,
you
the
scaring
last
people?
the last time it happened, a lot of people were
A lot of
killed,
people get killed. So
and uh, Germany didn't come out too well on that one, if
no,
I
no.
remember
So
correctly.
we talked about Germany the other day with Friedrich Merz, who also says, yeah, 4 to 5 years. That's about it. That's when we're going to be ready for war. But now the France's leading general, the head of France's um, armed forces.
He wears one of those funny round hats. Yeah,
He may
yeah.
maybe
The only guy ever looked good in it was De Gaulle, and it's
go.
my humble
That's
opinion.
right. He's now declared that, yep, we're getting ready for war. So he gave this interview the other day, and here was the New York Times story, and here says Russia sees France as its main enemy in Europe. French general says.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
That's right. During a rare news conference on Friday, the head of the French military,
Yeah,
Thierry Burkhard, said Russia remains a lasting close threat.
yeah. Easy for you to say. You're on the Atlantic.
um, and then he says Russia is priming for a long-term expansive war and considers France its primary adversary in Europe because of its strong support for Ukraine. This is the head of the French army. It
Well,
made this.
I'm sorry, George. I mean, so I'm just a simple guy here. Because of its strong support of Ukraine, not because of the French military.
That's right, exactly. So that's right. It's its primary adversary in Europe. It's
Because it supports Ukraine,
that's
but
right.
not because
Not because
it
its
has.
military is so formidable. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Um, the French general Thierry Burkhard, in a rare news conference, described Russia as a lasting close threat that is already menacing Europe in multiple ways, including satellite maneuvers and covert destabilization campaigns. Even after taking heavy casualties in Ukraine, Russia remains a formidable military menace.
Okay. Before we go, okay, menacing Europe in multiple ways, including satellite maneuvers and covert destabilization campaigns. But NATO's not doing that to Russia,
No,
right?
no, that's the
Of
that's
course.
that's the thing. Exactly. These satellite things, no, apparently there's no satellite maneuvering going on NATO's part. No covert or overt destabilization. But he goes on, Russia will continue to rearm despite the incredible losses it is suffering. He said he estimates that before 2030, it will again constitute a force that will pose a real threat to our borders on Europe's eastern flank. Now, we'll continue to rearm. I mean, it's NATO has just declared that everyone's going to cough up 5% of GDP for its military.
And they call it rearm.
Rearm, rearm. But apparently, Russia is not supposed to respond to that. And so Russia is rearming. I mean, this is outrageous.
What, I mean, it was Ursula von der Leyen, the Europe's Gauleiter. She said 800 billion euro, right?
Yeah, was it? Yeah, 800 billion. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a quite nice chunk of change. And then General Burkhardt, France's highest-ranking military official, said Russia would be a redoubtable enemy. Oh, look at their vocabulary, redoubtable. That's a rare word. You know, to give them points for using a redoubtable with a complete army model. I don't see any missing capability.
Do you know what that means, George?
No, I have no idea.
That's inside baseball stuff, I guess.
Yes. I don't see any missing capabilities. He said Moscow has nuclear weapons it can deliver from land, air, and submarine, a centralized command, and a population inured to suffering that is capable of enduring things that seem completely unimaginable to us. I always love it when they say this about the Russians, that they say, and
I mean, there's some stereotypes that just
no,
never.
we're inured. Million, 2 million,
Oh,
three
Russians
million.
like to suffer.
That's
You
right,
know,
exactly.
they
They're
like to suffer. Okay.
inured to suffering.
This is this is just garden variety Russophobia that goes back to the
Right,
Napoleonic Wars, to the Crimean War. This is so
right,
antiquated. And this is the guy that's running the French
right,
military.
right. That's right. Then he says General Burkhardt repeated several times that the Kremlin and Mr. Putin himself have made it clear they see France as Russia's primary European enemy.
Show me the receipts. Come on,
Exactly.
show me
This is
the
very,
receipts.
very interesting. He keeps
I
saying this. And I don't know about you, but I don't remember Putin or Lavrov ever saying, we see France as our main enemy in Europe.
George, do you know what gesture the French use for someone that's drunk? Do you know it?
Yes, that's right. That's that like yeah, that's the one there. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a little,
Yeah, I said a little too much cognac
a little bit too
after,
much
after
there
lunch.
after lunch.
Yes. Um, it's so yeah, it goes on, and then it says Putin said it. France is my main adversary in Europe, he said. That doesn't mean he doesn't care about other countries.
Where did he say that?
See that he's never said that. Never. In fact, if anything, it always goes the other time. They go on about the British, and they go on about the Germans, but I've never heard them go on about the French.
Well, no, because the British, because they're always the snake in the grass
Yes,
because they're doing all the covert stuff. Okay,
yes, yes,
and that's real and it's very irritating.
yes,
And for lack of other talents, this is what the British military and intelligence have the capacity to do. I don't deny that. I don't
right,
deny that. Okay, look at the gray zone. Look at how much they
yes,
participated in the destruction of the Kerch Bridge. I mean, they're
right,
really interested in that. Spider web, I'm sure they're all over that. Okay, now when it comes to the Germans, even though they have brushed aside Nord Stream,
right,
the Germans still have the largest economy in Europe, and they have the economic depth to rearm if it wants. Okay. They will rue the day if they ever really try it. But I mean, my point is that obviously the Russians look at Germany, still the powerhouse of the European economy, and the maniacal behavior of the British. The French, I'm sorry, you don't rate.
no,
You
I
don't
don't
even.
think so. No,
I don't even, because the Baltic republics, if you put them together, they get the third
right, that's it. And
place prize.
the thing
Okay,
is that the
but France
Germans,
doesn't make
yeah,
it.
that's right. The thing is that when it comes to the Germans, the Russians kind of have bad memories. And so, whenever some German leader, whether it's Schmerz or whether it's Annalena Baerbock, they start blustering about Russia. The Russians immediately say, hey, we kind of don't like this kind of talk. We have bad experiences with Germans when they engage in this kind of behavior and this kind of talk. So it's a Germany. The moment they do this, the moment they suddenly seemingly forget the the past, that just drives the Russians up the wall.
Yeah, that
Now,
German amnesia is a
yes,
problem.
exactly. So that's why it's sort of strange when that you know France that they elevate France, particularly as when it comes to France, Russia generally thinks that wait, we were kind of allies, on many occasions. We were on allies in the two wars. We were allies really in the 19th century, particularly allies against Germany in the late 19th century. So there isn't that kind of animus towards France.
And when it comes to European leaders, the Russians have a very favorable view of de Gaulle.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Um, Anyway, it says Russia has already made menacing moves against France, General Burkhardt said. What are these menacing moves? Russian satellites have hindered or jammed French satellites. Its submarines have patrolled the North Atlantic and Mediterranean to monitor areas that are important for us. And its bombers have gone on long range tours to spy on Allied aircraft carrier groups. And of course,
Meanwhile, NATO is surrounding Russia with military bases, and it put front and center. And I think this week, George, I want to do a deep dive into Azerbaijan, and they're looking. Some people are looking for a new front there. So
right,
I mean, it's Romania, Moldova,
right,
Georgia, now
yes,
Azerbaijan, and this is a guy who's complaining about Russian submarines in the Mediterranean. I
right,
mean, this
right.
guy, you've got time on your hands here.
That's right. And then he's like, well, okay, and you're not doing anything in the Black Sea, you're not doing anything in the Baltic.
What about the
Um,
shadow fleet?
yeah, exactly. They monitor areas that are important for us. I always love it when they talk about their reports. Liz Truss, she always has said, these are things that are important for us. Therefore, what are apparently, well, they're important for us. So butt out.
Yeah, but
These are
Russia's
international waters. I mean,
but Russia's borders are important to Russia.
exactly. And bombers have gone on long range tours to spy on Allied aircraft carrier groups. And you, of course, do not ever spy on Russia. We just don't do it. We never do that kind of thing. We would never dream of spying on Russian bases, Russian aircraft production sites, anything like that. We'd never do that. And it says, in addition, there have been covert Russian operations in France. Oh, this is this, and then we wait. Yes, what are these covert operations? Like spreading fake news about a bedbug outbreak in Paris. Wow. You know, if the best you can do is put out a story about a bed bug outbreak in Paris. Do we know it's fake? I mean, do we know that there wasn't a bed bug outbreak in Paris? And hiring proxies to paint stars of David on walls around Paris. Do you remember we did
We did that one,
we
yeah.
did that one? It's interesting that whenever they're recycling these stories, they're always the same. It's the same stories, like the warehouses that are blowing up, the Stars of David, which I don't even understand why Russia would want to do that. I mean, I don't.
And they were Moldovans or
I
Armenians
think it
or
was
something.
Moldovans, yeah, Moldovans. I think it was a
What's the difference? So
That's right. It
what's the
was a
difference?
Moldovan couple who
Yeah.
disappeared. I think they disappeared, so they couldn't be put on trial. But it was never explained what exactly the purpose of that Stars of David. They assumed, oh, this is very anti-Semitic, but I mean, how do we know it was the goal was anti-Semitic? So, um, yeah,
And that benefits Russia how?
exactly.
How?
See, when anti-Semitic incidents were rapidly rising in the country, I still don't get why, if you paint Stars of David, that's anti-Semitic. Isn't that philo-Semitic? I don't know. To me, it would seem like somebody is actually being pro-Israel, but they said it's anti-Semitic. Well, the bed bug. Look, I'm quite sure that there are probably some very cheap, seedy hotels in
Oh,
Paris.
oh,
And they
there
will
are.
have bed bugs.
There are plenty of them. Plenty of them.
There,
Okay.
there are indeed.
I mean, I don't know what's worse, fake news or real news about bed bugs. Okay, I don't know what's worse. Okay,
For the bed bug outbreak was, well, I don't know.
I'll tell you, there are, you know, Europe is full of dives. I mean,
Yes, yeah.
these like they're not even hotels. I
Right.
mean, they're not even hostel. I mean, I stayed in German hostels, okay? At least they're clean.
They're clean,
Okay?
exactly. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
clean. But in France,
No, no, yeah.
I don't know that the cleanliness. I just, and maybe
Yeah,
it's just Americans are very antiseptic.
right, right. But those hotels, they have bed bugs and cockroaches and any other kind of insect. I mean, they're not in central Paris. They're out in the sort of a little bit off the center. They're inexpensive, but they're inexpensive for a reason. Because nobody checks, whether the
And the
sheets
water
clean.
is brown often.
But this is apparently it's Russia. Russia's going around saying that there's a bed bug outbreak in Paris, and then
Oh,
he goes,
that was around the Olympics, right?
"What? What
It was,
was it? Was it around the Olympics?
yeah,
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 I guess so.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think it was. Yeah.
around the Olympics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it was the Russians that made the French do that profane
that's it, exactly.
opening or
That's
closing
like
act.
exactly that transgender thing. Yeah. France was the central target of Russia. He said, I think they did, even when it came to that opening ceremony, they did find a Russian angle that somehow Russia was playing this up. Russia.
Wow.
It was like they deliberately made this into a big issue. No one else would have dreamt of making this a big issue. It was
Yeah,
Russia that made it a big issue.
yeah. France's Catholics didn't say a word about
No,
it, right?
nothing at all. They were happy with it. France was a central target of Russia, he said, because it has taken a leading role in supporting Ukraine. He seems to be saying this over and over again. I mean, you see, it's a little repetitious. By destabilizing France, he said, ultimately it will have a domino effect.
But George, I mean, my retort to this, and it's been going on for a very long time, but so I won't spend a lot of time on it. These You don't need an outside malign
Right,
force to destabilize a country like France or Germany or Italy or the rest of them. You don't need an outside. It's all homegrown.
right.
It's all there, and it's generals like this guy that is the problem, not the solution.
That's right.
That's why they need to have they need the culprit. They need why is this all happening? No, you guys are doing a really bad job of governing.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Um, but the strange thing is that they need a new script. I mean, you can't just keep talking about these damn stars of David. You got to come up with something new. Otherwise, it sounds like you just made this stuff up. I mean, soon they're going to tell us about, when Russia was waging this anti-vax campaign way back when, at the height of the COVID era. I mean, you're just recycling these tired stories, which didn't have much plausibility even at the time. And it says there's a real need for awareness. He said, we are the number one adversary designated by the Russians, and that means there's an existing level of threat.
So if you say it three times, it's real, finally.
Right? Exactly. And then asked when the Russian president had labeled France as its particular adversary, General Burkhardt's spokesman did not provide an example, but pointed to a poll published in May by a Russian state-owned polling agency in which nearly half of the respondents, 48%, named France as the nation
Okay.
most hostile
I
to Russia.
I don't know what polling agency
Yeah, I
he's
don't.
reading. However, yeah, that rings a few bells for me. There was a public opinion poll that did designate a European country as Russia's primary adversary, and it was Germany, not France.
I, I
Okay.
would I would have thought that's right.
No, 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 because it's one of the interesting things that have come out of this, because as I have observed in the long tenure of my life here, it's quite remarkable, George. Up until recently, it's truly remarkable the lack of anti-German sentiment in everyday life in Russia. But, they refer to the fascists, the National Socialists, the Hitlerians. People don't say German.
Right.
They specify a regime. That is slowly changing
Yep.
because of, dirty, filthy Fred, okay, and his dirty hands,
Right.
okay.
Right.
That rhetoric really irks people for reasons,
Right.
George, if I
Right.
can.
Right. That's right.
You cannot have amnesia with us,
That's
okay?
right. That's right. So now we come to the British media, the Telegraph. And here it says Britain, quote, must prepare for war with Russia in next 5 years. General Sir Patrick Sanders urges government to build bomb shelters as Moscow's threat to the UK grows. Oh, it's growing. So this is the Telegraph says as Moscow's threat to the UK grows. We need bomb
Well,
shelters.
but isn't it interesting? Just look at this. Britain must prepare for war with Russia in the next 5 years. So you have no agency. There's no way you can avoid it. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Right,
There's nothing inevitable.
right,
Okay. What are you going to do to avert a
right,
possible war in 5 years? That's the question that needs to be
right.
answered if they truly believe this.
But they see they're not doing anything to avert it.
Exactly.
That's it. There's no, say, well, okay, if that's a reality, then what are you doing to stop this? Um, I mean, in the 1930s, there was begin from starting from about 1932 and then 33, 34. There was indeed a fear of a war with Germany, but the British then pursued a diplomacy of trying to resolve any potential problems with Germany and see if somehow something can be worked out whereby Britain and Germany are not at each other's throats. That was a diplomacy. But that's precisely what you do. If really you are worried that we're heading towards war, then you say, okay, well, what are the areas where we're coming into conflict, and how do we avert this conflict? The problem is they can't do that because there are no areas in which there's a conflict. Russia is not coveting Britain. I mean, Britain may be coveting Russia, but there's no economic conflict. There's no ideological conflict. So what would this war be about? What's the war? I mean, wars have to be about something. What would the war between Britain and Russia be about? They never address that issue. It's just, well, we're heading towards war.
Well, and that's what made, history has been so unkind to Neville Chamberlain because he was a hero. He averted
He
war.
tried, well, exactly. That's
He
what he
did
was
his
supposed
best.
to do. Yeah, that's what you're
But
supposed to
George
do.
is absolutely right. What is the reason?
Right,
What's the predicate for this
right.
conflict?
Right. Exactly. And this is either, and these generals, same with the other general, he was unable to do it. Well, we're Russia's main enemy in Europe. Why? Because we're so pro-Ukraine. That doesn't make sense. I mean, what does Russia care whether you're so pro-Ukraine? I mean, but, oh, well, and presumably this will be after the war's over. Well, if after the war's over, why would why would Russia care whether France was pro-Ukraine or not? Um, anyway, so he goes on. Britain must prepare for war with Russia within 5 years by building bunkers, investing in air defenses, and then says General Sir Patrick Sanders, who stood down as chief of the general staff. Chief of the general staff. That's quite senior. Last summer, said the UK needed to accept that war with Putin by 2030 was a realistic possibility. I always love it that with Putin, apparently just fighting it out with Putin
All
personally.
by himself. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is this just a pitch for more defense spending,
but
George?
this is it. This is the more you read these kinds of things, there is so much of that kind of military industrial complex. Because when Eisenhower first talked about this, he meant, okay, well, you got these former generals who then get these lucrative jobs at these arms manufacturers, and then they start peddling all these fairy tales about how we should spend more and more on the military. But now it's not just the military contractors. You have all the think tanks. You have the podcasters. You have all the cybersecurity people. You have, the whole security apparatus, and you have a newspaper column. There's just a vast superstructure of people baying for war who are
Yeah,
making money
remember,
out of this.
in the 1960 presidential campaign, one of the issues was the missile gap.
Yeah,
The missile gap, they were falling behind the Soviet Union.
right,
There was no missile gap. It was complete fiction. It
right,
was complete fiction. It was just the party of war, the uniparty of war, even back then, that they wanted to keep developing the military-industrial conflict because there was a missile gap, which was a complete
right,
fiction.
right. That's right. That's right. So, but now it's just much bigger. I mean, there's so many people. The moment you retire from the military, right away you've got a job at arms manufacturer, or you've got a job at a think tank funded by the government, or you've got a newspaper column, or you're on a TV show, and or you've got your own little security consultancy, or you're a cyber expert, or you're whatever expert, and or you've got a podcast, and you're trying to make money for your podcast. So I mean, they have absolute material interest in whipping up this hysteria, but that's a very dangerous thing. I mean, if Eisenhower thought in 1960 that this is a dangerous thing for people whipping up this hysteria because they're making money out of it, imagine what this is like now. In his most stark comments yet on the threat Britain faces from Moscow, Sir Patrick said he did not know how many more signals the British government needed for it to realize that it must act to increase the nation's resilience. It's got to act. If Russia stops fighting in Ukraine, you get to a position where within a matter of months, they will have the capability to conduct a limited attack on a NATO member that we will be responsible for supporting, and that happens by 2030. So he's peddling the same stuff that General Burkhardt in France saying, the moment this war is over in Ukraine, so it's like it's already beyond, they're already on the day after. They're kind of losing interest in the Ukraine now. Well, what happens the day after? We've got to keep this war with Russia going. So, the first thing they're going to do after that is they're going to attack somebody.
And what evidence is there of that? Zero. Zero.
Zero, zero.
I can remember when Poland became a member of the European Union, and I was at a bar called Harenda. I don't know why it was called that. And I had my Polish friend, I had some British and American, and of course a lot of Polish friends, and they were all celebrating it. And they said, "This is a real defeat for Russia." And I said, "I don't know. The Russians kind of will look at it the other way around because, well, you Poles were a big thorn in their side for a long time. Now they're the West problem,
Right,
okay?" And they did not like that comment,
right,
okay?
right, right,
So why would Russia have any interest in Poland
right,
whatsoever is a
right.
real mystery to me.
Yep.
It was actually a godsend,
Yes,
okay?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Um, and then we have General Sir Patrick said, as the former head of the British Army, there had been unsuccessful conversations with the government about building bomb shelters for civilians and underground command centers for the military in preparation for an attack. So imagine he goes to the government and says, when can we get these bomb shelter program off the ground and these underground command centers? And the British government probably thinks, well, it might kind of cause a little bit of panic in the country to start building bomb shelters
Yeah,
and
and
underground
everybody should
command centers.
keep a gas mask next to your iPad.
That's
Okay.
right. Um, and then he says it always came down to a conversation of it being too costly and not high enough priority, and the threat didn't feel sufficiently imminent or serious to make it worth it. So I'm not sure exactly which government he's referring to, but I'm sure there'll be some politicians now, maybe Tory politicians, who are going to hire this Sir Patrick Sanders and say, "I want you as my
Well,
military advisor."
You know what they're doing, George? They're all trying to channel their inner Churchill.
Yes,
Okay, that's what they're
yes,
doing.
yeah,
Okay, they think, you think I'm an outlier, a howling dog
right,
in the forest, but I am right.
yes,
And it's implied, just like Churchill was right.
yes, right,
Okay,
that's right,
that's what they're
exactly,
doing.
that's
That's
right,
what they're doing.
that's right. That's right. They all do that. They're all peddling this whole the Churchill thing, and the Americans do this. The Americans have also embraced that whole Churchill. Lindsey Graham, McCain, everyone. Oh yeah, so Churchill. Churchill was right. So we're all Churchill.
Well,
Yeah.
Churchill was right on a lot of things. He was wrong
Oh
about
no,
a
he
lot
was wrong
of
on an
things.
awful lot of things. In fact, his whole career was a series of taking the wrong step. When you talk about Gallipoli, um, you know, he,
You got
he,
the famine in
the
India.
famine, the abdication. He took the side of the king, Edward VIII, and then of course when you start talking about World War II, the staggering kind of military incompetence, the complete failures, and it was down to Churchill. These were Churchill inspired military projects. I mean, the famous expedition to Norway and Finland, which
So
led
it
to the
almost got into war with the Soviet Union and Germany.
Exactly, but it led to the fall of Neville Chamberlain. Chamberlain got the blame for it, but it wasn't Chamberlain's plan. It was Churchill who kind of pushed for this half-baked idea. And you go through this war. It was one half-baked notion after another. So, he's
The
not.
soft underbelly of Europe. Yeah,
That's
how
the
did the
one.
Italian
Exactly. That's right.
campaign
That,
go?
that, that was another thing.
That was a complete waste of
A
resources.
complete
Absolutely
waste of resources. And
complete
then
waste of
and
resources.
remember what was interesting was of course that the invasion of Yugoslavia, there was Hitler embarked on that invasion of Yugoslavia. That was because of the British. The British intervened. There was a non-aggression pact between Germany and Yugoslavia, and then the British intervened. They overthrew the king, and then the new government essentially said, "Oh, we're canceling our non-aggression pact with Germany." That, of course, infuriated Hitler, and he launched an invasion of Yugoslavia. But that was a completely half-baked idea that was guaranteed to infuriate Hitler, and he took out his rage on Yugoslavia, and it was a horrific invasion. I mean, it's a half-baked notion. I mean, what was the point of it? I mean, he wasn't threatening Yugoslavia. He was going to, but that was it's part of this war effort. Anyway, so there was one
And
fiasco after
how
another.
did British forces do in the Pacific? Well, that's
Yes,
another. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
some of the most humiliating military
That's right.
history in the history of the UK.
That's right, exactly. And they said, "Oh, take the countries that are very alive to the threat." Ooh, who's alive to the threat? Estonia, Poland, the Nordics. In other words, the nutcases of Europe.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, our psychopathic cousins. Yeah.
exactly, the certifiable. It's like the ones who are already in the loony bin, straight jacket. Governments there take a really proactive, serious approach to making sure the population realize that they could be attacked at almost any time.
We could tear a page from the Danish Prime Minister's book. He's really nutty.
She's not, yeah, yeah. And so they give them a set of instructions on how to prepare for the consequences of that. Just remember the sentence he just said. They could be attacked at almost any time. Why would they be attacked? I mean, there's usually some predicate, like, you don't just attack for no reason. This is a guy who's the chief of the general staff. This wasn't just simply some corporal somewhere. He was the top man in the British Army who's talking like this. Oh, they could be attacked at any
Well,
time.
he talks like a blogger.
Exactly. And so they give them a set of instructions on how to prepare for the consequences of that loss of power, loss of fuel, storing food. They encourage them to have their own defensive bunkers, whether that's in cellars or civil defense. They can encourage people to volunteer for civil defense roles to protect key bits of infrastructure. I love it because when you think of the Nordics, so if that's the case, Sweden and Finland, they sure made the right decision to join NATO. That was, they've now they I don't know what building their bunkers and was it storing food, storing fuel. They're in the cellars. They're now
Yeah, well,
living in the cellars, but out of terror.
they're they're promoting survivalism.
That's right. Um, so anyway, that's the British. So now we have the British and the French. You know, the two ancient allies, each encouraging the other in lunacy, preparing for a war about nothing. There's like
Well, isn't it interesting is that they're preparing for war because they know it's things ain't working out too well in Ukraine,
right,
okay? And so to cover up their malfeasance, about a war that never should have been fought in the first place, they say, but we're going to be ready the next time. We're going to be ready, okay?
right.
We're going to have to change European society. We have to be unified in all of this. I mean, none of this helps Ukraine. It's
That's
not
right,
even really mentioned,
right,
okay?
right, right.
And again, budgets are tight. I mean, I don't know how many stories you come across, particularly in the UK, with the National Health Service and parentally in problems and stuff like that. And they want to divert money to Ukraine. They want to divert when there is zero military threat to the UK right now.
None,
Zero.
none. I don't,
There's no military threat to France. Zero.
right. Yeah, that's right. I'm not even sure how that would work. I mean, would the Russians be planning an invasion? Is that they would send a task force to invade the UK? I don't know what.
Russians are not, at least in modern history, Russians don't do amphibious
They're not.
stuff.
They're not. Yeah, they're not
They're
amphibious.
not, they,
That's not.
they
That's
don't like,
not.
I'm crossing a river. Yes.
Yeah, and that's not amphibious. But similarly, how are they going to get to France? I mean, is that also the plan that they would have to, go cross the Baltic, which is supposedly a NATO lake. They go across the Baltic and then they would land their forces into France. I don't know the mechanics of how they intend to
Well,
um,
they might,
conquer France.
fly 1,500 kilometers for paratroopers or something, some ridiculous thing. I mean, there's absolutely zero military threat to NATO at all.
None, none.
NATO is the threat,
Well,
okay? It's a threat
exactly.
it's a threat to Europe. NATO
That's
is a
right.
threat to Europe.
Exactly. And the more NATO talks like this, with this ridiculous, hysterical, overwrought, over the top bluster, the more you realize that NATO is a threat. That it's essentially NATO continues to justify itself, justifies these exorbitant budgets by whipping up kind of public hysteria and by presenting ludicrous scenarios in order to terrify the public, but which acquire a certain reality of their own and could eventually end in a war
Well, I
simply
mean,
because
what
you're kind of creating this reality of somehow that war is inevitable.
it's even worse. They're creating the possibilities for a preventive war. Okay.
Preventable. That's right.
That's what they want to do. Well, we got to hit them before they
They're
hit
gonna
us.
hit it. That's right. That's exactly what it is. That is what they're doing. Because the more they talk about how Russia has this intent to take Britain, take France, take the Nordics, take Poland, the more you do that, then hey, we've got to do something
George,
now.
I mean, it was 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago that the Donetsk was finally liberated.
Yeah.
Three and a half years, everyone.
Yeah,
It
look down.
happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
The Donetsk, just one region,
Yeah.
it was finally freed of Ukrainian troops. And they're talking about landing
Right.
on the beaches of Dover? Are you absolutely out of your mind?
Right. Exactly.
And what would they do if they got there? They'd say, "Well, where's Big Ben? Let's see, or like, yeah, I've always wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. Can you show me where it is?" There's no reason. What do they want? That place it's in a spiral decline. What do you want control over that for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
No, exactly. And that's why,
I mean, do they have oil? Or I mean, oh, Russia has oil.
well,
Do they
hey,
oh, Russia has minerals. What do
hey,
they have that Russia wants?
they have
What?
they have the Louvre. And if you got the Louvre, hey, there's a lot of beautiful artworks there. Hey, we get to keep them. They're going to be ours. We're going to make some money. With tourists coming in to look at the Mona Lisa. That's all going to be nice revenue for the Kremlin. I mean, I don't know what else they're going to get, or maybe they get some baguettes. Baguettes and some fresh butter. Hey, this is really good. So I don't know what else the Russians would be
It's
hoping
just
to get.
this level of lunacy. This is just something that is, it's completely, it completely ginned up out of thin air.
Right,
There's no evidence. Like, show me the receipts
right.
at all. Okay. Oh, they're messing around with our satellites. So you're messing around with Russia satellites?
I am quite sure. If
Okay.
I mean, if there is some kind of whatever messing around the satellites, that this is a mutual thing.
Everybody's messing around.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's how it works, everyone. That's how it works.
Right.
Okay. And usually it's tit for tat. Hey, you want to take, okay, we'll take out yours. Okay. That's why it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the waning days of the Obama administration, Obama, not the smartest guy in the room, well, what about a major cyber attack on Russia? And he was told, well, they'll do it to us.
Of course.
And we're more vulnerable than they are.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's why it's not a good idea to do because let's say you have a major cyber attack and it leads to some explosion at a hydroelectric plant. I don't know how many people that die as a result of massive flooding. That's a serious business, and then they're going to do that to us. So is that really what you want? Which is why it doesn't happen. They don't do that kind of thing precisely for that reason. They're going to do it to us. So that's why the best they can do is to go on about the bed bugs. Imagine saying, well, the Russians, it's bed bugs today. They're going to be in the Elysee Palace tomorrow.
It doesn't matter. Maybe I'm going to do some breaking news here. No matter who's running Russia, there's going to be bed bugs in Paris. You can take that to the bank. Okay. The place is so filthy. It's a filthy, filthy city. I'm never going back there. Never.
And it's dirtier now than it was even like 20 years ago. Like when you can remember it, 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't
Yeah, but
then,
that
but
was
now
kind
it's
of
even
a
much dirtier than it was
but
then.
that was kind of charming in
Right,
a way. And this
right,
is like industrial
right.
dirty. Okay. Before it was like, well, the French, they don't upkeep everything, but it's like, that's how the French are and stuff like that. Hygiene, cleanliness is not the top of their list. Had a certain charm to it. But now, no. Well, it's just litter everywhere. It's just,
Yeah.
and it smells. It smells. Sorry, everyone, but I mean, I just, Athens, no different. Rome, no different. The Germans, because they're Germans, are a little bit better at it. Okay. But even Berlin, which is one of the ugliest cities in the world. Okay. Merritt, take a look at Berlin, your capital.
Right.
Why does it look that way? You weren't around, but we all know why it looks that way. Why your city looks so shitty.
Right.
Okay. Because every single building was knocked down and you didn't rebuild it very well.
Mm.
Okay.
That's true.
Have you been to Berlin? It's a
Yeah, yeah, and of course, many times. Yeah,
shithole. It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
shithole.
That's right. It was a beautiful city. Used to be a beautiful city. But yeah, I mean, it was destroyed, and then what they rebuilt, that kind of, the
Yeah, that kind of
the West
early
Berlin. It was
post
never, it was never very nice.
late modernism thing with
Yeah,
the
it wasn't.
bricks and the steel and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
most
I uh,
soulless architecture ever.
that sort of 1960s
Yeah.
architecture is hideous everywhere. They built horrible buildings in the 50s and 60s. I mean, I haven't built anything terribly good since, but the things that they built in the 60s are pretty terrible. It's very interesting. I'm just completely off topic about art with architecture, which is, why is it that they used to build such beautiful buildings 100 years ago, and they built something so ugly now? I mean, no one's really answered that question. What? Hey, people talk about Budapest and everything. It's such a beautiful city. Yeah, but apparently then people knew how to build beautiful buildings. They kind of lost that ability. It's that.
Well, I mean, it's a little off topic since you started it. I mean, it's one of the things that I always marvel at because you have before the the Bolshevik Revolution, Moscow was very much a backwater. Okay, it was not top priority because the court was in St. Petersburg, and so Moscow was kind of by a lot of people it was like a huge village. Okay, but there was some very interesting architecture, particularly the elites, because they would if the Tsar went to Moscow, which he very rarely did, you had the entire court went with you, okay? Because you want to make sure that, you're in the competition, nobody's going to backstab you. And they built these beautiful estates, and they still exist. Now, the Bolsheviks turned them into schools and nursing homes, but the buildings are still there. And you know what they do, George? Like clockwork, they keep refurbishing them and bringing them back to their former glory. They're so beautiful, okay? And their color, I mean, they have these, why pastel colors? Or I've been asking Russians for 25 years, why did you go down the path of pastels with the yellows and the blues and stuff like that? It's really, really beautiful. But you're absolutely right. Europe had the talent at one point in time, and they've completely rejected. Oh,
Right,
is it because it's misogynist or something? I mean, give me some stupid reason.
right,
No, architecture is really important for
right.
your collective soul in a huge public space. Because
Exactly.
I see buildings all the time that this is inspiring. I like looking at this. And you go to look at those. What do they call those terraced building in the UK?
Oh, the semi-detached. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
God, they forced people to live there. It's like a prison.
yeah. That's true.
There, what's his name? He died a few years ago. The
Roger
conservative.
Scruton. Roger Scruton.
He has Roger Scruton on beauty or on art and beauty. It's on YouTube. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
A wonderful documentary. Says everything that George and I are saying right now.
right, right. That's true.
Anyway,
Right.
isn't this more interesting than talking about, kooks in the British and French military?
That's
It's
right.
at least talking about architecture before the Second World War is
Right.
inspiring. These people don't inspire anything. These are like greedy little bastards.
Yes, yes. But all of them make money. This guy Sanders, I'm sure he's making a nice chunk of change by, ridiculously uh, whipping up this hysteria about Russia. This General Burkhardt, I'm sure he'll probably, when he retires in the next couple of years, there's going to be all sorts of um, weapons manufacturers who are going to hire him and use him as a consultant. He's going to be making a lot of money. And this is a very bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of money sloshing around, and these people are just engaged in something so deeply irresponsible. Well, let's build some bunkers. We need to start building bunkers. I mean, this is
Yeah, but I bet you my
responsible
bottom,
way to talk.
I bet you my bottom ruble that these two generals don't have bomb shelters at their estates
No,
outside
no,
the
no,
city. I
no.
can guarantee you they don't.
Right,
Okay.
right, exactly.
So. This is turning into the Chronicles of Imbecilic Chronicles is what we should title this because these
Imbecile
are
economics.
imbeciles.
That's right.
They're imbeciles and they're part of the elite. They're not going to feel the effects of any of this. Do they know what a liter of petrol costs? Do these two guys know? I bet you they don't. No, no. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
They do. Their health care? Oh yeah, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Do they wait in line? I don't think so.
That's right.
I go on. I despise these
I
people.
know.
I
Exactly.
despise them.
They are
Okay.
the worst. And it's so disgusting that the media give them give them this kind of a platform. I mean, this guy, he gets this long article. That was a very long article in the Telegraph. I only just, selected a few excerpts.
Thank you, George.
Yes,
Thank you.
exactly. I thought you'd appreciate it. But and the Telegraph, completely uncritically, they're total, and they're saying this guy is, as you say, he's an imbecile, a rich imbecile, but he's a complete imbecile, and that what he's doing is totally irresponsible. He's using his supposed expertise on military matters to make a lot of money and to terrify people into surrendering to.
We forgot to mention, we should, it's really important. In those two articles, agreed they were truncated for brevity. But was there any, ever entertained the possibility of an alternative of
No,
negotiation. Never.
no, no, no.
That tells you everything you need to know.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Because they want to go to war. And that's what it sounds like.
That's right.
They
Exactly.
want to.
That's right.
Because all you have to do is kick in the door and the roof will cave in. This is the same mentality
Right.
the Nazis had. All you have to do is kick in the door and the whole artifice will collapse.
That's,
Okay, I think that's a reasonable.
I think no, that's right. I think it's right. That's exactly what they want. They think they're going to have a war. The Russian regime will collapse, and then it's going to be a free for all. The country will break apart, and we're all going to make a lot of money looting and dividing up the goods among us. That's the idea. That's what they're thinking about. But it's not going to happen. But they remember the 90s, which they regard as being a kind of the good times,
The
and they think that
troubles.
something similar is going to happen, like following this.
It was the time of the troubles.
Exactly.
As I've mentioned before, George, my parents grew up during the Great Depression, and my parents died my father in 1984 and my mother in 2005. That was a seminal event of their life, not the Second World War, the
Right.
Depression.
Right. Right.
Okay. And that is the seminal experience here, is the troubles of the 1990s. And that will take at least a generation for that to dissipate, not to disappear, to dissipate. Because it's like stamped on you, it's indelibly stamped on your consciousness of just how bad. And we know who did it and for what reasons. Okay. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
going on and on. Anyway, this is our wrap for Sunday. A little early for us. But we're going to get together. Okay, tomorrow Trump has his big announcement. Okay, because of the time difference, George and I get to try to read the tea leaves a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, we
Okay,
might get a sense of it
might
before.
get a sense of it before. So unfortunately, because we're ahead of the Imperium time-wise, we're probably not going to be able to say anything. I think there's going to be enough said, and there's
I
going to be
think
enough.
there'll be hints of it.
And the administration is going to, start preparing the public, okay? Because
Exactly.
Trump
Exactly.
wants to be center stage, of course. So hopefully, be able to read the tea leaves during our live stream. And if you're a troll, take the day off. We have better things to do. Hopefully, you do too,
That's right.
George.
That's right. And 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, please join me for my solo. And then you got to think about the dogs, because the dogs really they're getting very, very angry. They feel that they are being ignored, and not enough attention is being paid to them.
Well, Apple is saying maybe we should start a potential rumor that the Chihuahuas are going to go to war with us, and we have to be careful.
That's right.
They
Yeah.
can be bought off. They can be bought off. Okay.
Exactly. They're going to launch these missiles, and they can be quite nasty. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we're gonna get these dogs off this train of escalation. This very dangerous. That's how that's you can get to serious wars that way.
Chihuahua escalation.
Yeah, it's the escalation. Got to get off the escalation ladder. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.